Welcome to Herstory Revisited. Today we're talking about the prophets and the hidden prophecies of the women and sheroes of the 20th century. One of these women was one of my own personal heroes. Her name was Barbara Marx Hubbard.
Right.
She was a beautiful, luminous, kind of a playful spirit
Definitely.
um, who was considered a futurist.
Mm-hmm.
But she raised her family with 5 children in Connecticut as a kind of average. She calls herself average housewife, but she really wasn't.
No.
She studied under Buckminster Fuller
And Jonas
and
Salk.
Jonas Salk
She knew,
and
Teilhard de Chardin.
and
Yes.
Teilhard de Chardin and all
Yes.
these beautiful luminary thinkers of the 20th century that were her teachers.
Big time.
And she became kind of a teacher for us.
Right.
And we ended up meeting her and becoming friends. And so we want to share with you the prophecies because we never even considered back in 1996 when we wrote down her words that it would end up literally becoming a prophecy of this time right now.
That's right.
So let me share with you the notes that we just found that we've held carefully for 30 years.
And just found.
And just found Barbara Marx Hubbard. She said, self-consciousness actually began with Homo sapien only around 100,000 years ago. Individuated egoic consciousness began, and from this, contention and conflict. Without it, however, we could not have come to understand the root of all things, including ourselves. Self-consciousness is bound to self-destruct, but a new species is being born to counter it. This is unprecedented on Earth. We have to set our intention of co-directing where we will land within this next evolutionary leap. Crick and Watson discovered DNA in the 1950s, and coincidentally, contraception at the same time was discovered. We can now map and recreate life differently with CRISPR. We have 2 choices: regressive fundamentalism or a new idea, regenopause. In the 1960s, man landed on the moon and left the Earth alive. And when we looked upon ourselves, we fell in love with all of humanity and with the Earth itself. The word environment began then, and women woke up for the first time. This is when the book Feminine Mystique was written, and women were given the right to banking, which gave them free agency, which gave them the right to own property.
Right.
And seemingly basic things that we should all have equally, and the Equal Rights Amendment itself. She said around the year 2000, a macro shift has happened. Every system is under stress. Psycho-spiritual evolution is happening so quickly, and we have no social systems or structures to allow it to unfold into. Okay, hold on. So, she said, since we have no precedent, we need to collectively choose to become this universal species that we are all unfolding into. It is literally a quantum leap. We are becoming Homo universalis, going through a punctuated equilibrium, the first species to go through it and the first species to notice it.
Well.
So natural selection has moved into conscious choice for transformation, conscious transcendence for the first time in history. And this is literally a bifurcation, literally this leap of consciousness. And we are all experiencing it right now.
In our own individual way, too.
Barbara
Yes.
crossed the Rainbow Bridge 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Didn't live to be able to actually be here for this moment. but that all of us collectively have power. Do you remember when we met, Barbara?
Do I remember? Yes, it was an extraordinary
Barbara
day.
looked at me and she said, "When I look in your eyes, I can hear the sound current."
Wow.
Wow. Right?
I mean, you also have to understand when we met Barbara, she was probably already in her early 80s, I would say.
Probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
early 80s. She had the energy almost of a young person, the wisdom, the depth of a person of her age,
Mm,
and a mind. So, I mean, to be a futurist, you have to embrace new stuff, new technology, which usually you don't as you get older. And the wisdom also, that she had, and her heart was so open and so she was like a fairy in a human body. I can't
yeah.
explain, when you're around her, you feel just like bubble. No,
And her sister is
yeah,
married to Daniel Ellsberg, the most dangerous man in America, Pentagon Papers,
great,
that Daniel Ellsberg.
great documentary, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. And also remarkable, just remarkable people. So yeah, so we met both her sister and her the same day.
Yeah, so in the next episode, or in an upcoming episode, we will
Yes,
share with you the interview
yes,
with Barbara Marx Hubbard that I did for Supreme Master Television
that's right.
way
Oof,
back
yeah,
in 2000
in San
something.
Francisco. Yeah,
Um so yeah, maybe we should attach it to this and move on and hear from the great master herself.
yeah. Are you done with the prophecy itself?
Well, she said,
I think there's a bit
"We
more.
have been in a period of gestation to the self-guided conscious beings we are unfolding into now. This is ego inviting the essence to incarnate. It becomes the end of egoic domination
Mm,
because the collective egoic principles now have the power to destroy human itself. You are spirit localized as co-creation. This is not ego seeking union, it's an invitation of spirit to incarnate. Jung says the apocalypse is actually the shattering of the small self in favor of the universal human."
right.
Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a disciple of Madame Blavatsky.
That's
Isn't that
interesting.
interesting? He was part of the
Yeah.
school of theosophy in
Right.
the 1860s and 1870s.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It is because all of modern psychology really
Right.
branches out of that.
It reminded me of something. When we met Barbara, she explained to us that she talked about regenopause, and we're like, well, what is regenopause? And she said, I experienced something interesting. Her generation may be the first generation that got to live 30, even 40 years after menopause. 30 years, more
Mm,
likely. Usually you had menopause and that was kind of the end. You couldn't have children and life was hard and women didn't live that much, past that. Now that they can live a lot longer, she said something incredible happens. The little self that's insecure and feels everything and feels separated from all of that. She said, I experienced it as my divine, my higher eternal self. My little self kind of fell in love with my higher self, and where it used to pull me down and pull me away and separated, it kind of embraced it. And so there was no longer that pull and push and pull that was happening. And
mm.
she said that's why the grandmothers have been given the wand, because in that space you have all the patience in the world.
And
You
because the
have
whole human family is under them.
and so you have the hindsight of a life lived. So you
Mm,
have learned, you have felt, you have experienced, but at the same time, you no longer have to prove yourself. At the same time, you've already raised your family. You've already done the things that you were supposed to do.
mm.
But then you can take on bigger problems that are not just your family, but of the planet. At the world level kind of thing. And so women that are menopausal women are in unique position to be able to help solve these problems because of where they are in their journey through their lives. And it's kind of the first time in many generation of women that would not literally pass 10 years past their menopause or so that was that was a great insight she shared with us at
True.
that moment.
Because we live to
Yeah,
be old.
Yeah.
So earn your curves and love them both.
Yes.
So with Regenopause, we need to start thinking about being a universal human. And that's really what Barbara's main insight is. So I thought maybe I asked her a question about this evolution. Are we going through a new leap in all of humanity? Is DNA itself evolving? And her contention is that it is.
Yes.
But let's hear directly from Barbara.
I had an experience I call expanded reality, in which my mind's eye went into outer space. I became a universal being for a moment. And I was also a living member of the planetary body, as we all are. And I experienced, I call it a planetary birth, that all the new innovations in health, in education, in economics that are percolating right now under the system were coordinated into a living whole. Like your body has 70 trillion cells. It's coordinated by the force of universal intelligence.
It's a planetary system itself.
No one cell could possibly do this. No one human could coordinate a planet. But planetary intelligence, based on universal intelligence, can coordinate it when you are aligned with your own inner experience of the divine. I would say I had a experience of that being so, and I heard the words, our story is the birth of a universal humanity. Earth is giving birth to a species capable of co-evolving with nature, understanding nature, working with nature, restoring nature, enhancing nature, evolving nature, and co-creating with spirit. And spirit is the inner knowing of the divine that comes through each individual as their own essential being. And then I got my vocation. It was, Barbara, go tell the story of the birth of a universal humanity.
The thing I love about it is this notion of we're moving beyond the particular, the individual, and beginning to think much more in terms of our collective conscious. The internet and mass media on a global scale is really changing a lot about how we think of ourselves as human or as the human species.
This is very true. And since my fundamental experience was a planetary birth experience, I felt myself and everybody to be members of a living planetary body. That living planetary body is itself in an organic developmental path. If you take, it took a while for life to get planted on this earth, and then multicellular life, and then animal life, and then these vast biosphere and ecologies. And then in comes the human brain. And the human brain starts understanding nature and becoming ever more successful. And only in the last 40 years did we realize we had an environment. We had no clue that we were affecting the whole earth. And we begin to suddenly hit the limit to a growth of this species in this consciousness. That's bioevolution. Suddenly, people began to wake up. We have to care for this earth.
Listening to, I'll look at you here. Listening to Barbara is, it's like hanging out with an old friend.
Yes.
Do you remember in 1989, or no, it was 1993, Sophie and I launched a book. And we went to this book fair, and the guy across from us had a book called You're Becoming a Galactic Human. And he wanted to trade with our book. So we got this book, and that began our UFO journey.
Something about expanding your mind to other dimensions. And
well,
yes.
I think the thing that was interesting about his premise was he said that there was a photon belt of energy coming from Alcyon, the central sun of the universe, and that our galaxy actually orbits a much bigger star. Our entire galaxy orbits it, and it takes 26,400 years to do an entire orbit. And there's a waxing period and a waning period.
Yes.
And apparently the Indian yugas represent that cycle of history.
Right. And a lot of the monuments are sort of tracing that, because in the up cycle, life is long, there's no disease, there's no war, we live long periods of time. And as we started descending being more like densifying, everything gets more dense, then we experience the separation to the greatest degree, all the way to the Kali Yuga, which is the bottom, until we go back again. So it's like this.
So this arc of history apparently was tracked
Yeah.
by our ancestors
Right.
in many cultures.
Right.
And the problem is that we keep having these global cataclysms that wipe people out,
Right.
and then the memory
And there's no physical,
and the
there's
few
nothing
survivors that
left.
are left try to piece back what happened.
Right. They're either at the bottom of the ocean, or they're on top of the mountains, or they're buried under how many feet of, sand and
And it's very well
material.
known that there was a period called the Younger Dryas, which is a sediment layer all across the planet. At a certain layer,
Mhm.
there's about a 1/4 inch of black carbon material,
Right.
as if the whole planet had burned at one time.
Yeah.
But that sediment layer, they say, is not carbon, it's actually sand from the global flood.
Right.
So the flood of Noah, or the flood myths that we have
Right.
all over the planet,
Right.
most likely was 11,400 years ago
Mm-hmm.
when the Younger Dryas happened. And what's so astounding is certain archaeological discoveries like Göbekli Tepe and Caral in Peru are dated before the global flood.
Right.
And that's what's so crazy, is that we
Right.
actually have monumental architecture from humans
Right.
more than 12,000 years ago.
And many of them are up. They're high in altitude, so they may not have been affected by, large amount of water, bodies of water that would have covered everything and taken everything away with them back at sea.
What I think so interesting about this universal human, it's along the lines of what we've been talking about with the Mayan calendar and everything, that we as a planet have gone through cycles,
Mhm.
and that probably the astrological charts were tracking what
We're in that cycle.
were in
We're in the
those
cycle they were,
cycles.
because they had to prepare for the descending part of it. You have to prepare, and maybe they went underground. If they knew some massive either flood or fire or a meteor or whatever
And
kind of happened.
coincidentally, look at Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
It's right next to Derinkuyu.
Right.
Derinkuyu is a 16-story city that goes underground.
That's right.
And
That's right.
they suspect that there could have been over 10,000 people that lived there.
We've actually discovered
with
a lot
animals.
of underground cities, many that we had no idea existed. I mean, now they're more like a tourist kind of attraction where people get to see them, but people were living there at the time, which means it was not inhabitable at the surface.
So
probably.
maybe there were other cataclysms that caused people
Right.
to have to be,
Right.
in caves.
Right.
The cave people in Europe,
Yes.
and the Neanderthals.
I mean, that was probably ice, but yeah.
No, but really, I mean,
Yeah.
Lascaux and
Yeah.
Chauvet,
And Chauvet, yeah.
they're like 40,000-year-old human remains, and maybe not even humans, Neanderthals.
Probably, yeah.
But anyway, in this idea of Homo universalis, what I think is so beautiful is that Barbara talks poetically about when man landed on the moon, and looking back at the earth and falling in love with the planet as its mother, as your mother. Here we are with Artemis. And
That's
literally
true.
in the last couple days, they didn't go and land
No,
on the
They
moon,
went around it to make
but it
sure that
has
it
the
would
whole
work.
world captured again. And the thing that's so interesting to me is the moon clips. When they went to the other side of the moon, there was a total eclipse of the earth
Oh, wow. I haven't seen
and the
that.
sun.
Wow.
And so it's got a ring of fire around the
it.
moon as human is
Right.
looking back.
Mm,
And that's a super interesting perspective.
definitely.
Not that we fell in love with the moon, but
No,
it's a
but
perspective where we saw the moon up close and personal, and the moon itself is blocking the view of the earth and blocking the view of the sun.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
One in a lifetime, probably.
Well, I mean, we all as humans get to experience that because they sent the film back.
That's right. That's right.
So here we are in our universal human birthing.
Yes.
And maybe we are becoming a galactic human. And in these future episodes, we actually we want to share with you, there were some Native American Lakota and Dakota people that had a close encounter with an extraterrestrial craft in the 90s.
Mhm.
And because of it, they said that the star people that they spoke to told them they had to come out with their prophecies and share with
Right.
the whole world about humanity being one,
Right.
and
It was time for that.
and that we as all people need to stand together as one. And what I loved about Hiawatha's prayer is he says the red man, the black man, the white man,
That's right.
the yellow man, and the star man.
That's right.
That's the
The Star
five
Man is the fifth
fingers.
one. That's correct. So all
So
united.
we are right at the brink of cosmic disclosure. And the US government, I mean, honestly, for the first time in history, Donald Trump is saying all UFO data needs to come out,
Mm.
and that it needs to be, all of the US government needs to release what it knows about extraterrestrial craft. So
Yeah.
we're going to see, I
It's kind
mean,
of interesting.
did we really go to the moon? I don't know. Did we really go back? What were we really doing?
And when do we ever come back? It's like, I want to know. It's so close.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so stay tuned for more episodes about cosmic disclosure and the prophecies, because I really think that some of the tribes have been holding on to this information for a very long time.
Yeah, I think they've known, and they've passed it with the oral tradition. They probably kept it to themselves because maybe nobody would believe it, but they know that their lineage, does not originate from Earth, inner Earth or coming from outside.
Super interesting.
You
And
see it a lot, in their depiction, in their, petroglyph, even in their traditions.
we did some travel through the
Yes.
Southwest, and we have some footage that we're going to share with you
Yeah.
about that too. The petroglyphs that are UFOs and so forth.
Yep.
Anyway, stay tuned.
That's fine.